Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. All right, it is RamView. I'm Joe Terosian, and the questions today are really fun ones. That's Stephon Gilmore. It's clearing up what I believe about Stephon Gilmore and Tyrann Mathieu, and talking Kyler Murray. We're going to talk some Lawrence McCutcheon, Marshall Faulk, and remember the great Rich Saul that nobody seems to remember, but we should remember. I'm Joe Terosian. This is RamView. It's April 14th, 2022, and it's really great to be doing this again. I love doing this every day. I really do. It's just a question of making sure the time is there. And again, I thank you for your support, your clicks, your positive comments. Also, whatever, I pass this around on so many different forums. If my tagging you in the different forums or some of the Rams forums on FB and stuff, if that is a hassle, I will stop doing it. I should have asked permission of everybody at first. I asked permission for a few, but if it is, let me know and I'll stop tagging you. I know you probably see it and make a choice whether or not to watch it or not, but sometimes it's just fun to, I like to be notified when something that I want to watch is on. And if it is, you let me know in the comments box and I won't tag you anymore, I promise. And such. So, but anyway, we're talking Ram stuff, and I thought it was kind of fun today that I clicked on and I was getting ready to rumble, and Stephon Gilmore signed a 2-year, $23 rock contract with the Indianapolis Colts. Good for the Colts, good for Stephon Gilmore, and that means he's out of the loop for the Rams, and such. And again, I just want to clear up real briefly here. I wasn't anti-signing Stephon Gilmore, anti-signing Tyrann Mathieu. It was just about the cap hit. Same thing with Bobby Wagner. I'll look at all the negatives of signing somebody if the cap hit is high. But if the cap hit is low and these guys are ring chasing, man, bring them on in. I'm good with all of it. I was concerned. I was interested in that if they did bring in Gilmore, because from what I was told, I don't watch a whole lot of Stephon Gilmore, but he is a cover corner. And, again, with the Rams, they've got their cover corner, but they also do a lot of zone. And so I wasn't sure how that was going to fit in, but I'm sure for a talent like that, they would have made adjustments. But now it's moot, and so good on that. Tyrann Mathieu comes in, and if he comes in, then it's bye-bye Terrell Burgess, right? I don't see him as anything more than a special teamer this year, and they move on from him. Do you really see the Rams re-signing Taylor Rapp? Do you really, I'd like to see them give Nick Scott a shot, but Nick Scott's going to be a free agent after this year. So it'll be interesting to see that if they did bring in a Tyrann Mathieu after the draft so they don't lose a compensatory pick, it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do in the draft. And the reason I bring that up is because I believe now that Gilmore didn't sign, I believe the Rams will look at a corner at the 104th pick. I don't think they'll grab a safety that high. Yeah, if Kyle Hamilton drops to 104th out of Notre Dame, if he drops to 104, right, and donkeys start to fly, then yeah, the Rams will take Kyle Hamilton at 104, but he's not going to. And the Rams have been finding value from third round on down into the 7th and 6th with safeties, and so expect that to be the same. So I think the Rams will go after a corner in the draft, even more so now with Gilmore signing in Indianapolis. Also was really interested in signing was Rodney McLeod, former Ram, who's been in Philly for a number of years, won a Super Bowl there in Philly. He signed with the Colts as well. So the Colts trying to bolster that secondary, and loyal RamView follower Rich Whittington, I'm curious to know what he thinks about that, as he's a major Colts fan. But Rodney McLeod is an example of a Rams line of thinking. Les Snead becomes the GM in 2012. Undrafted free agent Johnny Hekker signs. Also an undrafted free agent named Rodney McLeod signs out of Virginia. And he becomes a starter. He's really productive for the Rams for 4 seasons, but he's a safety. And the Rams don't pay safeties, right? It's like, thank you so much for your service on that first contract, but now we're gonna move on. And so the Rams moved on after the 2015 season. McLeod signed with the Eagles, and 2 years later he was a Super Bowl champion. So good for him. He's 31 now, and he signed on with the Colts. He's still playing football. Pretty much a grade A citizen too, Rodney McLeod. So good for him all the way around. Looking around the former Ram, excuse me, Sammy Watkins signs with Green Bay. I would have thought he might have stayed in Baltimore, but he needed to go to Green Bay, and Green Bay needed Sammy Watkins, right? Because they're kind of depleted there in the receiver department, and so. But nice career, Sammy. I don't think Green Bay is going anywhere this year. So AJ Green re-signed with the Cardinals for three rocks, and great, good for the Cardinals. I love it when they sign these older players, and good for them, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about them here in a second. Real quick, I want to blow this off the chart here, get this out of the way. I've been asked about college football and what I think about the NIL. Yeah, I love college football. I love to watch college football, but college football is big. I really respect the guys that do college football because there's so much to talk about in college football. And I did a pretty good job, I think, up through the beginning of December, end of November, on just games I watched. I created a top 30 on my website, joetarosian.com. There is a college football button. But once we got to December and the bowl games and everything, I just couldn't keep up. And it's just a lot of work. So I'll do the same thing this year, see if I can make sure I finish up on it. But college football is a lot of work. And, man, to follow up on all the transfer portals and what the NIL is doing. And as I've said before, I'm perfectly happy with the college players making money. The colleges have ripped them off for years. That kind of blows off the veneer that it was ever amateur sport. It was never amateur sport. Even if you didn't get money under the table, when you're getting a scholarship for $200,000, you're a professional athlete, and they didn't give you a $200,000 plus scholarship to go to class necessarily. You window dressed by going to class. No, you were given that scholarship to play football, build the university's brand, and bring in revenue, and that's fine. But I don't think there's anything wrong with them getting some dough on that, and so good for them on that. I do think it is, as Nick Saban called it, a bit of the Wild West right now. JT Daniels has gone from starting quarterback at USC to fledgling starter in Georgia, and now I think he's in West Virginia. And so the transfer portal does make things interesting. I wouldn't want to be a college coach right now. No stability. You bring in your star player, and then your star player after his freshman year wants to go someplace else. The smaller Division I schools are now basically minor leagues for developmental grounds for other players. Why would somebody stay at Purdue after 2 years or 1 year after they've proven themselves? Why wouldn't they transfer to Ohio State or Michigan, right? And I think we're seeing this more and more. Why go to Washington State? Man, I had a great season at Washington State. People find out I can play Division I. Oh, wow. I can go to Texas and get an NIL deal and make some money and play at an elite school. It's going to happen. And so coaches have to keep re-recruiting their players. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But anything that blows up the NCAA, I'm perfectly happy, because they've abused some schools, and they've abused coaches, and they've abused players for years with their attitude, and so and their actions. And so good for that, Go Jerry Tarkanian. Back to the NFL. The word broke again that Kyler Murray is not going to come in until his contract is redone, and yada yada yada. And Kyler Murray is not a great quarterback. Kyler Murray is a competent quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but he's a punk, and you can see his body language. I wouldn't want to play for him. And I'm perfectly happy, though. With all that said, please, Arizona, sign him. As a Ram fan, by all means, give him 45 rocks per season over the next 4 or 5 years. Lock yourself into Kyler Murray, right? And dance with him, because that just makes the Rams' position just that much better. The Cardinals went the over-the-hill gang route last year. Brought in A.J. Green. They brought in Watt. They brought in Rodney Hudson. By the end of the year, everybody was breaking down. And then on top of that, Murray got banged up. DeAndre Hopkins was gone for the year. They've lost Chandler Jones. And so, yeah, please tie yourself to Kyler Murray, who I think is a talented quarterback. He's a quarterback who can make plays, but he doesn't strike me as a quarterback that can direct an offense, lead a team, and inspire others. He's just got some punky mannerisms to him that wouldn't inspire me to go through a brick wall for him as a receiver or do that little bit more. And maybe it's different. He's youth. He grows up. He matures. Awesome. But I'm thrilled that he's going to hold out. And I'd love to see the Cardinals give him a deal. Now, if the Cardinals traded him, where would they trade him right now? And then who would they get? They'd have to take a quarterback this year. They're not going to go into the season with Colt McCoy. unless they make some weird deal, right, and somehow get their hands on Malik Willis. He's the only guy I really like in the first round, but we'll see, and it's not my problem. But what I love about what's taking place in the NFC West is the Rams have put the Cardinals and the 49ers, and to a lesser extent the Seahawks, in this position where they can't stand still and bold actions have to be taken. And they're rolling the dice on a lot of things because the Rams' dice rolls have paid off, right? They rolled the dice on Stafford. It paid off. They rolled the dice on Jalen Ramsey and all these other things, two first-round picks. And they've done all these things, and these things have worked out. So to keep up, the NFC West has to do that. So they're really in a bad spot in Arizona, is that they got to throw a lot of money to Kyler Murray. And I don't know if Kyler Murray is worth it, right? So it's a gamble. The 49ers gave away a bunch of draft picks to move up to draft Trey Lance, and we're already going into his second year, and we don't know if he's the guy or not. And so, again, surgery or not, I think they're kind of comfortable with having Jimmy G still around, at least until Lance proves himself. Also, the Seahawks, I think they knew they couldn't stand pat, and they made a bold deal with Russell Wilson. Now, I think they have it in their minds they're not in a rebuild, but they are in a rebuild right now, and they're going to dance with Drew Lock unless they make a move to take a quarterback, which I've heard they said they're not. I mean, I wouldn't make a move, get rid of Russell Wilson, not draft a quarterback, and then trade for Baker Mayfield. I wouldn't do that. So the Rams have put these teams in a lot of hard places, and I think it's marvelous, right? And so good for us. The golden age of being a Ram fan. Hey, coming back, looking at this date in history on April 15th, 2000, well, whatever. We've got some dates here. 3 things that stuck out as I looked up Rams history. One, on this date in 2012, Rams center, longtime Rams center back in the 70s, Rich Saul passed away of leukemia at the age of 64. He dealt with that leukemia for about 9 years. But Saul, he was an 8th round selection in the 1970 draft, 204th overall, okay, out of Michigan State. And he never missed a game for the Rams. He was a special teamer for 5 years, 1970 through 74. And then in 1975, he replaced Ken Iman as the starting center for the Rams. Now, this is something that's really fascinating that most people forget. I did a little story on the Rams offensive lines from the mid-60s up through 89 season. Iman was never really a Pro Bowler or a standout with the Rams in the national level, but Iman started for 10 consecutive years for the Rams and never missed a game. He was Mr. Steady at the center spot. And so by the time it got to the point where Saul replaced him, it was a big deal. And then Saul steps in, and for the next 7 years, he never misses a game. Never misses a game, and he ends up appearing in 6 straight Pro Bowls. Isn't that funny? A guy that never missed a game, played in 6 straight Pro Bowls, even though I'm not real big on the Pro Bowl, but he went to 6 straight Pro Bowls. You don't even hear about Rich Saul in terms of one of the elite centers of all time. I went and looked up the centers drafted in 1970, and out of that draft, remember Saul was taken 204th overall. The number 1 rated center was that 8th round pick out of Michigan State by the Rams. Talk about value, huh? That was even pre-Klosterman. And the Rams got a lot of clicks out of Rich Saul, and he passed away on this day 10 years ago in 2012. What a great Ram that just has been lost to history. Another great Ram was Lawrence McCutcheon. If you remember Lawrence McCutcheon, he came to the Rams in 72, didn't play. And then in 73, 74, ran for 1,000 yards each of those years, ran for 911 and 75, and then went over 1,000 in both 76 and 77. Dick Enberg used to call him Sir Lawrence of Los Angeles. He was a great back. He wasn't a home run hitter, but he was a real steady back. He had a little bit of power. He could catch the ball. Very consistent. Very, if I remember correctly, very north-south. He didn't fiddle around, hit the hole. And he was the Rams starter basically through 77. 78, he got hurt, ran for about 420 yards. And by that time, the Rams had drafted Elvis Peacock. And then in first round in 78, they drafted Elvis Peacock. 6th round, I think, in 77, they drafted Wendell Tyler. And when McCutcheon just couldn't find the wheels anymore, that's when Tyler stepped in 79 and had a 1,000-yard year, and he was the feature back in the Super Bowl. But McCutcheon was also the guy that he was the only Ram in the first round to ever throw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl to Ron Smith in the second half of Super Bowl 14. And that was basically Lawrence McCutcheon's last hurrah with the Rams, because on this date in 1980, McCutcheon was sent to the Denver Broncos for a third-round pick, number 77 overall. And so, yeah, that was the end of McCutcheon's era with the Rams. And so I just thought it was worth mentioning. The Rams got that 77th overall pick, third round, and they packaged that along with a couple of other picks, including a second-rounder to the Houston Oilers for tight end Mike Barber. You remember Mike Barber? Mike Barber came in at 82, 83. I think he was there still in 84 and kind of settled down that tight end spot for the Rams that had been loose basically since Terry Nelson's career ended. Terry Nelson's the one that moved Bob Klein and Pat Curran out of town. And then by the early 80s, the Rams were looking for an answer, and they didn't have one. And it was Victor Hicks, Walt Arnold, right? A lot of different names. And they ended up going with Mike Barber out of Houston, who had a nice career and a couple of good years with the Rams. So I wanted to get that one out. That pick that ended up being traded, the 77th overall, ended up being a guy named Robert Abraham. He played 6 years for the Oilers at inside linebacker. So I just thought we'd throw that out there. And then on this date in 1999, the Rams traded for Marshall Faulk. They sent a number 36, the number 138 overall in the draft to the Indianapolis Colts for Marshall Faulk. And think about that, a second and what is that, a fourth or a fifth for Marshall Faulk. I mean, what a draft, what a trade, right? The Colts had taken Edgerrin James and they moved Faulk out. And you think about what Faulk did for the Rams. So he was just not just a great runner, but an exceptional runner, not just a great receiver, but an exceptional receiver, and not just a great player, but an exceptional player and leader for the Rams. And he just handled his career. Now, I know he had some post-career troubles later on at the NFL Network, but at his time with the Rams, I know it was in St. Louis. I know it's a bitter pill, but he was a great example of a leader. And the way transitioned slowly from Faulk to Steven Jackson, Faulk showed a lot of class in that. And so today was the day the Rams traded for Marshall Faulk. And that number 36 overall pick, second round, they sent to the Colts, turned out to be Mike Peterson. The Colts took in the draft. And he had a 14-year NFL career, inside linebacker, very distinguished, with the Colts, Jags, and Falcons. And then the other pick at number 138 was Brad Scioli, Spicoli, from Fast Times. Brad Scioli, there you go. He played 6 years as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman for the Colts, but neither Peterson or Scioli ended up playing the Super Bowl with the Colts. And so, you might say the Rams got the better part of that deal and stuff, but I thought it was interesting to get that out there as we come to the 18-minute mark. Again, I'm Joe Terosian, and I write books, and I've written sports for over 20 years. I was a founder at Mid-Valley Sports with my friends. They're still there at Mid-Valley Sports, and they're covering the NFL. And I'm writing books and doing this. And you can find my books, Tangent Dreams, some of my other books at Amazon, and you can follow me there. I don't do a Patreon, don't charge for this or anything, but just supplementing my income because I'm also a pastor at a small church in Burbank. And so that's me. And so if you can lend support, if you can hit like and subscribe, hit share, leave comments, send me your mock drafts. I got one the other day, and God bless. And thank you so much. Love talking Ram football. Maybe on Monday I'll talk about my socks. Those are Ram socks that have not been worn since they won the Super Bowl, and I'm holding on to them to make sure the mojo doesn't fall out in case any riffraff comes into the office and jinxes the Rams. Do you get into that? I think there are people you shouldn't watch football games with, and that is the casual fan who cares more about the commercials than the game. But that's a Monday show. All right, guys. God bless. Take care. Thanks so much, and keep talking Rams. Take care.